Hello and welcome to the Flix Forum podcast, where each episode we go back and we look at a Netflix original film in the order of release. Happy festive season. This is our 6th day of our 12 days of Christmas special, where we're putting out an episode every day over this special period, I guess. Well, today we have Netflix 351st film from 2021. It's the comedy drama called Moxie. This one's directed by Amy Poehler and stars Hadley Robinson, Alycia Pascual-Pena, Tsai, Patrick Schwarzenegger, Nico, Hiraga, and Amy Poehler. I'm your host. Thanks for joining me today. As always, we will have some spoilers as we go through this episode. I guess the name there that sort of stands out, Patrick Schwarzenegger. This is Arnie's son in this film. I don't think I had ever heard of him before this film, so that's a little bit of an excitement, some excitement for this episode. As always, like I said, we're going to spoil this film, but we do start the show with the Fast Flicks, where we do a quick little summary of what the film is all about. So this one is about a teenage girl who starts a zine at her school to fight back against the patriarchy. This is very explicit. This is very, very in your face. So this film's not going to be for everyone, but I am going to give my thoughts on it as we go. And we do talk a little bit about how this one ended up on Netflix. So I guess I want to talk about Moxie. What does the word Moxie mean? It's an antiquated term that refers to a certain enlivening spark some people have, which causes them to assert themselves, challenge the status quo, and generally bring energy and unpredictability to anything they do. So that's what this film's about. It's about a group of girls who bring a lot of unpredictability to their school. And I guess in this film, the reference is that the principal constantly refers to the school as having Moxie throughout. Around the world, what's this one called? In Portuguese, it's called Moxie, when girls fight. So that ties in with what Moxie is. In Finnish, it's called Keys Off. No idea. In German, it's called Moxie, Time to Fight Back. That makes sense. In Greek, it's Moxie, Girls with Tea Bags. Some weird translations for this one. In Hungarian, it's called Moxie, or the Cool Girls Fight Back. In Italian, it's Girl Power, the Revolution Begins at School. Pretty clear about what the film's about. In Japanese, it's called Moxie, Our Movement. In Romanian, it's called Nerve. Okay, interesting. In Russian, it's called A Rebel, and Chinese, it's called Girls Want Revolution. Finally, Vietnamese, it's called Moxie, Strong Women. So most of them tie into that idea about girl power and what's going on with these teenage girls in this film. The tagline for this film was Find Your Voice. Yes, that makes sense. That ties in very well. This movie, it's based on the 2015 fiction book called Moxie, a Novel, which was written by Jennifer Mathieu, and it was in turn inspired by the 1990s Riot Girl feminist movement, which if you're interested in, have a read about. Very interesting, and some of the music and some of the symbolism in this film reflects highly of that too. In February of 2019, it was announced that Amy Poehler would direct this film from a screenplay by Tamara Chesner and serve as a producer under her Paper Kite Productions banner, with Netflix distributing the film. Principal photography began in October of 2019 in Arcadia, California. There were some scenes shot in and around LA as well. Patrick Schwarzenegger, he admitted that he found it difficult to be so mean to the rest of the cast in this film. He is a male chauvinistic pig in this film. Director Amy Poehler helped push him when she thought he was being too nice. So I guess you needed to say something like that based on the character that we see from him in this film, if you've actually watched it. This did hit Netflix on the 3rd of March 2021, and I guess we need to talk about what the critics and audiences are saying about this film. On Rotten Tomatoes, it sits at 70%. That's on 117 reviews. That is fresh. Not certified yet, so I'm intrigued on how many reviews it needs to be certified. The audience, it sits at 68%, so pretty much in place. That's on more than 500 ratings. On IMDb, it sits at a 6.7 out of 10, so again, very similar on 29,000 ratings. But if we go to Letterboxd, this is where we've got some numbers, some pretty big numbers. It sits at a 2.8 out of 5 on 122,000 ratings. But it's actually been logged by 187,000 people. That is a lot of people. What's Metacritic saying? Metacritic 54 out of 100 on 25 critic reviews. So that's yellow on that traffic light system, sitting in that middle sort of area. The audience is also yellow in that middle area at a 4.5 out of 10. That's on 51 reviews. So, on the positive side, I guess, is the summary of what people are saying about this film. What are my early thoughts for this one? I think this film, it's very in your face, and there's a lot of criticism about this film online, but I feel like that's mainly from white dudes who just want to complain because they feel like they're being attacked. That's not the point of this film, and that is not what this film is doing. The film does try to chew off a lot, but I think it's pretty successful for its target audience, and I think it does a fairly decent job, even if they try to touch on too many themes and ideas. So positive for me, positive film. There are so many characters in this film. I'm going to go through them all fairly briefly, but the main character in this film is Vivian. Viv, she's this timid sort of girl, I guess. She doesn't know how to stand up for herself. She just fits into what school and society tells her to do. But she uses her mum's past to inspire the creation of this zine I mentioned before, and this zine is to call out societal issues. When she does make this scene, it kicks off. It becomes very popular, but she doesn't take ownership of it and likes the fame around it, I guess, because she's such an introvert, and her best friend, or a BFF Val, is best friends forever in life, I'm not sure, Claudia, that's who they are. They're very quiet and reserved. And I think Claudia, I guess, like I said, they're best friends forever, and she does feel a bit left out when Vivian starts this activism that we're going to talk about, because she has high expectations from her migrant family. She needs to do well academically and never stray from doing what's expected. She volunteers with senior citizens, but her mum is constantly reminding her about the sacrifices she had to make to start a new life. So that's where they're a little bit different, and we'll talk a little bit about a line between them later on too. This all kicks off, I guess, this activism from Vivian because of Lucy. She's this new girl at the school who challenges the status quo and stands up for herself and what she thinks is right too. Very confident young girl. We have Seth, he's Vivian's love interest, who pops up in this film because he supports her movement too, and he's the only person that sort of finds out early on that Vivian is the one that's making this zine. He had this nickname of the Shrimp because he was such a scrawny little guy, but now he's grown up and he's a skater boy, so he's hot, and the girls are interested. Lisa's Vivian's mum, played by Amy Poehler, and she's a single mum and doing the best for what she can, but for being a single mum and trying to upbring your daughter with these values that you want her to have. But she cops the blunt of Vivian's outbursts throughout. I think the awkward situation with a daughter when she's the daughter's trying to date, and then Lisa as the mum wants to date as well with this guy called John, and he seems very nice. So those awkward sorts of things that the teenagers have with parents when they're trying to move on in life too. Mitchell Wilson, this is Schwarzenegger. He is the epitome of toxic masculinity. He's this star football player. He's cocky. He's a bully. He's got the support of all the leaders at school because, they want to be in his pockets when he makes it big time. So he's a gross character, and he plays that fairly well. We have Kira and Amaya. They're these black athletes who are frustrated, I guess, that the girls' sports program doesn't get the same attention as the boys' program, and they try to stand up for that too. And then the other side character is Caitlin. She's a girl who gets sent home for wearing a tank top, so is very supportive of this zine, as well as CJ, who's a trans girl, and isn't allowed to audition for the role in the school production that she wants to. So very, very interesting. A good variety of different characters and some good representation in this film too. The director, Amy Poehler, we need to talk about her. Everyone knows her for her comedic work. This is actually the second Netflix original film of hers that we've covered on this show as well. The other one was Wine Country, which you can find in our back catalogue, I guess. And most of you too would know her voice work. The Inside Out films, she plays Joy, and Inside Out 2, the biggest film of 2024. So Amy Poehler is not short of cash, but happy to be creative and be behind the director's chair as well. Let's talk about some scenes. What are some scenes that stood out? What are some ones that didn't work in this film? The ones that worked, I think Lucy, this new girl, she rocks up, her first day in class, she stands up to the teacher about giving them holiday homework to read The Great Gatsby, this book about, written by a white guy about white people, and also stands up to Mitchell as well. I like the idea that, people are telling her, toe the line, the principal does, the girls at school do, but she says, I'm going to keep my head high no matter what. I really like that independent nature of her. There's a scene where Vivian tells her mum that she's sort of seeing Seth, and it's a humorous, which they play back on as well. Lisa sort of says, "Oh, that's the kid who peed his pants on a field trip early in life." That's funny, but it's even funnier when he comes over for dinner with them, and she does that hardline mum role. You're coming, you're meeting my daughter, you're having dinner with me. Where do you see your future? Where do you see yourself in 10 years? And she's like, make sure you don't pee your pants. I remember I was there. That was quite funny. Towards the end, Claudia takes the blame for Moxie, and she does this as a sacrifice almost, because we know and we understand the reaction she's going to get from her mother. And Viv cracks it because it's her work, and she doesn't like the idea that someone else is taking the fame for that. And I guess the idea is that they've been such good friends that Claudia knows it was Vivian that was making these things, and I guess she was upset that Vivian had never told her. So Vivian goes to the house, and the mum sees her, closes the door on her straight away, wants nothing to do with her because she's been suspended from school. And I think there's a comment about, my mother would rather me dead than be suspended from school. And then Claudia and Vivian do have this discussion about, how do you know it was me? And it's just nice. They've been friends for so long. The final walkout by the female students at the end of the film too, it's on your nose, but for me, it was super impactful, especially when they all scream at the end. I just think that was really well done. What are some things I didn't like this one? Text messages on the screen. I don't need to talk about it. Everyone that listens knows I can't stand communication between characters through text on screen. I hate it. Seth, he decides to take Vivian on this romantic date, and they end up at a funeral home. It just felt a bit iffy. They're looking at caskets, they lie in one and listen to music together. That was super weird for me. There's a scene, Mitchell, they do this vote where Mitchell's almost guaranteed that he's going to win this scholarship, and then the girls stand up, so they have a vote between the girls and Mitchell, and Vivian gets so upset that Mitchell wins that she takes this bottle of champagne, gets drunk by herself, and then just vomits. I don't know if it was needed. And the whole dinner scene where Vivian has Seth over for the first time, we've got her mum with her boyfriend sitting there, and Vivian just cracks it about society, really, at everyone that's there, especially Seth. Seth did not deserve that. He was such a good guy and had done everything that she could possibly need up to that stage. I just thought that was pretty ordinary and not a wise character move. What are some themes? What are some ideas in this film? What's it trying to say? Girl power is a big thing. The idea of girl power, female empowerment, feminism, standing up to men, challenging the idea that boys will be boys. That needs to be challenged. I like that. The idea of high school too. This is a teen film. The troubles at high school with fitting in, the challenges of socialization, social media too, the big part that it can play in, the issues that it can create, and this school system that's often stuck in the dark ages. And then you've got to talk a little bit about that rite of passage to making a difference in the world too. And in this film, it was nice to see it. It wasn't done through a prom. I thought that was good. Finally, that you've got to reject conformity too. Use your voice. There is power in numbers. So some inspirational things there for some younger audience members to take from this film. What else did I take from this film? I couldn't help but think about the use of zine throughout. So like zines where you cut and mash different things to create your own, cheap version of a magazine and print it and distribute it in small numbers. And this is how the Moxie movement starts through Vivian. Maybe this idea would have hit in the early 2000s, but we do see these characters with the ability to use social media and used in a negative way as well. Why couldn't they have used social media in a positive way and use that to get the message out? I just think that the characters in the film do use social media, so there's no reason why you couldn't do this activism through social media. You do it through a print magazine zine that isn't really relevant to a current audience. It didn't land, especially the idea that Vivian had this print shop just down the road that she could go to and print copies. Like, where in the world, this film's 2021, where in the world did a print shop like that exist? It just really felt weird. And again, with technology, there's multiple scenes where the students are sitting in the classroom and listen to the morning bulletin on the TV in the classroom of the student's voice and agency. And these things, they're outdated. Social media and messaging and school apps, these do these things now. It just felt a little bit dated with some of those things they could have updated for the screen. Sorry, that's a little bit of a rant. What are some questions? What are some ponderings? What are some thoughts from this film? This is a quote from the Harvard Crimson. In their review for the film, they said, "The question remains about this film, who is the film Moxie for?" They say the most obvious answer is white women seeking validation for their activism. I sat there and I read that and I thought about it for a bit. It does seem a little bit harsh, and I guess that's that little bit of idea too. Like for me, I question, why is Amy Poehler making a film like this? Why is she making a teen film? Isn't she at the age that she should be making more films like Wine Country, which we've covered on this show? I just thought it was an interesting quote, an interesting choice, but probably a little bit harsh too. Claudia is Vivian's best friend. There's a moment where she says to Vivian that you have more freedom to make bad decisions because you're white. I just think that's a really impactful line and a serious thing to contend with too. Like Vivian could do and stuff up, and the same with Schwarzenegger. What was his character's name again? Mitchell. Like the idea, they can do wrong, but they'll recover. Someone like Claudia it's going to be a big climb back to recover from being suspended at school. The work she's going to have to do with her family, because education is everything to some people. So I think that's a really important and interesting thing too. Finally, Seth, there's a moment where he talks about his sisters and the All-American dolls. Like, I'm in Australia, the All-American dolls don't mean anything to me at all. But in my brain, it clicked. All I could think about was Amanda Dobbins. She's the co-host of the Big Picture podcast with Sean Fennessy. If anyone listens to that, if you like film and you're listening to this, you may have listened to that before. She's ranted about these things before and talked about all the characters. So to me, that was all I could think about, even though I have no care factor about those dolls at all. That's just a random little thought from me. All right, we're ready to wrap this one up. We give the films a rating out of 5. For me, this is well worth a watch, especially to show young people the power of standing up and vocalizing what you believe in and what is right too. I'm really hopeful that this film at the time, or still can in the future, sort of inspire the right people. So this is a 3 out of 5 for me. Solid sort of film. We're on socials. We have Instagram, we have Facebook, and we have X, which is formerly known as Twitter. For me, the question that I wanted to put out there for this episode is the idea, have you ever made a zine? I remember this, it was a trendy sort of thing, but again, about 20 years ago. I'm interested. Let me know if you've made a zine, if it was successful. What was the topic? What did you make your zine about? Because maybe it's coming back. Maybe it's something that we need to re-emphasize, some physical print media for the younger generation. We're back tomorrow. We're still kicking through. We've still got a couple more days to go of this festive season. So tomorrow we do have another 2021 film. This one's a French action thriller and it's called Sentinel. It's directed by Julien Leclerc and stars Olga Kurylenko, Marilyn Lima, and Michelle Nakaboff. So that's what we've got tomorrow. Interested? Hope you are too. Give it a watch before tomorrow. As always, thanks for hanging out and I'll see you tomorrow.